0.
Welcome to authenticity. And that's what I ask of you in this moment, is to join me in your heart and your most authentic self to come through as we're talking right now.
Thank you.
And I know we got a chance to talk on the phone. And so just kind of tell me where you're at right now. Where are you in your ascension, inward work? I mean, of the letting go. Where are you feeling your embodiment right now?
I think I'm being the Aquarius self that I am. I've done some pretty interesting work to get me to this sort of point where I'm able to like hold and stabilize the light and talk to people like as you do and many of our fellow brothers and sisters to keep them in a kind of a comforted space where, you know, all things are possible.
That's beautiful. And I know you mentioned that you've met people through Sology. Is that right?
I have. Franco and Victoria. I haven't physically met Jason Estes, Stephen Papiatek, and just have worked with all of them and or listened to their recordings and or studied what they're studying to just have a plethora of my understanding of things. So it's like expanding my toolbox. And as a Reiki master, I think you just continue to let it unfurl into this big spiritual way of living.
And myself, I've never experienced Reiki. Mm-hmm. I've never had that done, that work done. Can you tell me what that entails? And do you do any of that now?
I do. I do it in a quieter state. I used to work on clients and I used to have my own class at the yoga studio where I practiced and people would come. And Reiki is a hands-on healing technique. Dr. Asui, it came from Japan and then came to Hawaii. And then in the 1980s came into the United States of America. And it's a particular symbolic principle. And one is channeling, you know, the embodiment of the healing energy through your hands and your feet. And it takes, I would say, when we say real, I mean, through a teacher who was my teacher and shaman, it took 3 years to become, I guess, a certified person in the levels of stages, because one has to do their own healing work in order to be the channel and the light for others. So through my process, I now send, if people are going to the hospital or people ask for it, they can come to my house and I'll give them a session. But I just usually through prayer or through helping hold the transitions that we're all going through, I sort of just through my prayer, pull in the Reiki and send it, you know. And so that's how I'm implementing it.
That's beautiful, because I really feel like that modality has assisted so many to really pave the way that there's other ways that we can heal ourselves through energy.
Yes.
You know, like you said, using your hands and our feet. And now that we're here in 2023 and we're in August, and we were right before the show, we were talking about the energies that I really feel the new moon energies coming in, and Venus, the feminine, the mother energy is really strong today. When these energies are coming in and you feel them and you sense them, what is your go-to now?
Well, I've been an avid.
What's in your toolbox?
I've been an avid astrology follower, and I just worked on myself a little bit more understanding. I was born in a very unusual time. I was born on a full lunar eclipse, and I'm a sun sign Aquarius, but my moon is in Leo. So right now, the polarity of that. So understanding that Pluto's going into Aquarius, you know, for this new type of time, you know, for the next 20 years. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, how do I, and what do I going to, you know, implement that, you know, what am I going to do to catalyst that? You know, it's like, it's kind of interesting. So every time I study more astrology, I'm knowing myself a little more, because the sun sign of myself is Aquarius. I'm quite esoteric and interested in this and the spiritual science of Rudolf Steiner is another one. All of these kinds of ways to, I guess it's like, it feels to me like all these different tools of streamlining from, Dolores Cannon, shamans, techniques, the colors, sound, chakras, yoga, mantras, just, I guess if you just become all of the things and then you're just working with that kind of a toolbox. It's kind of esoteric to try to describe, but I feel like I'm doing those kinds of things, specifically astrology and a lot of numerology I connect in with to operate and then help people with saying, not such a good time, be careful. For instance, my dear neighbor, she was feeling the energy and she said, oh, Christine, I fell and she hurt her ankle and stuff. And it was interesting, not to be like scaring people, but she says, I felt it and I was unhinged and, fell and hurt herself. So I said, that I offered, I said, if you're interested in want me to work on you, I'll happily help you.
It definitely, one of the things that you may feel is dizziness or a sense of wobble, a little wobbly when the energies come in. And so what I have learned from my own experience, the less trauma you have in the body, the less blockages, let's say, that when the energy comes through, it can run through without any interference. And so the pain is less as well.
I doing a lot of work shamanistic, you retrieve more of your soul parts. And what's really great is when you take the 100% of responsibility for yourself and you want to travel. And I like to travel over behind and then forward and down and around. So I've seen some things in the past that have traumatized myself and have had traumatizations, in this life. So as I've healed that, I think I've become like, now I'm at 52. I was like, wow, it's really more profound. And you can feel and tap in and really, I am affected through my ears a lot with this kind of thing, but because, I'm, air and water, I have to like ground. So there's different foods and elements that I'll eat to ground and practices, walking barefoot to, if it becomes like that, I'm like, ooh, at work, I think Friday when this kind of thing was happening, the energy from Montauk, I felt like I was in the water and had to like down. I had salted water, which helped me to really bring myself back through breath.
Yes, and I've also, being in natural bodies of water right now, swimming, grounding, like you said, will assist with some of the symptoms that we're all feeling right now. And so you're right. I want to get into you because I've seen you out there. I see your light. I'll share something and you'll comment, and sometimes you'll share it. And so I see you, I feel you, I see your bright light. And I just want, because I know this is the first time you've been on this kind of platform or being able to use your voice. And so this is really your opportunity, Christine, to speak your truth. And as you feel into that, what would you like the audience who are listening now or perhaps on the replay know from Christine?
Well, from my experience, I just want to let everyone know that life is like completely amazing. And even though there may be difficulties and challenges, if you really work through that, you just become your like most authentic, fabulous self. And then from there, from the inside out, you can really radiate out and explore like what the world has to offer despite whatever's going on. And as our world is completely changing now, not to be fearful and really check in with yourself and know that anything and all things are possible through your wanting to be your best self.
That's right. And being only yourself.
That's all we can be. What else can we do?
Right. But we were talking about how some people think that maybe perhaps they should be wearing all white or they should be wearing dressing a certain way. And I've mentioned this on previous shows that this isn't a cookie cutter reality, right? We want to be our individual light and signature. We want to bring Christine forward as she is, like I want to see people dress the way they want, talk the way they want, and
Exactly.
bring in their energy authentically and not like anyone else has told them to do.
I think the issue today and through whatever it's like what is like the culture and our parents and then the school systems, I think what it taught us is the outer in rather than the inner out. And what I feel probably most grateful for is I've always been able to maintain my own unusual look. I don't want to look like anyone else. I don't want to dress like anyone else. I don't want to have the same car as anyone else. I want to be myself and do it, how I want to do it. And with that, and I think I had mentioned to you about no one like breaking my spirit, just like the creative aspects or how I want to do it, or oh, you don't work that many hours. Well, if you work smart, why would you have to work hard? All those indoctrination of things. I'm just so like feeling like a trailblazer. It's like, no, we don't. You do it how you want to do it. How do you want to do it? I'm like, oh, maybe no one ever asked you how you wanted to do it because you were told what to do.
Exactly. And that is so true. And I had a conversation with someone the other day, and we were talking about how when we were in school, we were being trained to have a half an hour break, 2 10-minute recesses, and it emulates when we're an adult in a 9 to 5 job. And how we had the same thing. You get your 30-minute lunch, you get a 10-minute break to step out of your office or whatever it is that you're doing. And then you have to come back, after that 30-minute break. And isn't that exactly what they had us do in school?
Yeah.
And so we're
school and I think I got in trouble or kicked out. I was wearing purple clogs in the 3rd grade, and you were supposed to wear like those Buster Brown, like lace-up shoes, and I think I might have had them in my bag. Different things like that. It sounds funny, but I remember that. I'm like, and then what you were told you're a rebel, or an outlaw, or whatever, because you're not, how are you going to do unusual things? Because I'm also trained, as a graphic designer. So I'm like a puzzle master. I've been in the newspaper business for 20 years. So in order to, you have to have sort of a different kind of mind in order to make, 160-page newspaper, because you have to do so many things so fast in a short amount of time. So the point is that you could never do something very unique if you were, the rest of the people. I've never worked 9 to 5.
Well, and congratulations for understanding that early on, that you didn't have to do that, and to work smart, not hard. And we're really being,
because people will say, well, they'll tease you and say, well, what do you only work a certain amount? Yeah, certain amount. Yeah. And they're like, and you can see from them. So you zoom out and you say, oh, wow, they, if you do this or chase the dollar or go, and I'm not saying you should effort your ways to, not effort, I guess you sort of need to more have a flow of that, but like to, you have to put the time in to do the thing in order to understand it or master it.
True. And we're really leading the way now by example. And so by you stepping forth and doing that yourself, and that's Todd saying, I hear him say, as the individual go, so does the collective. And individually, we're taking our power back. And that's the example that you and I are doing right now. It's 2 o'clock where you live, and it's 12 something here where I live, and neither one of us are at work at your traditional job. And to me, that's beautiful, that we're able to be the examples of that for our family and friends, that we can use our creative minds and hearts to create a new way of being. And that I'm so grateful for this platform.
Me too.
To voice our voice.
Expansive and fun. I like to have fun and dive into stuff. And I think also what I wanted to say about that is, I think when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was always like, how do I want to say it? Other people would influence you, sort of and to do it that way. But now, more efforting, I don't know how to say it. Rather than me just being myself, when you're just yourself and you're light, more people will be understanding you from an energetic standpoint. So as I've learned about energy and myself and the world and how things work, you know, in the matrix or the field of it all, you're reaching more people that way rather than it was also sort of misguided back in the day, from that other standpoint. So by me just being myself, by being on this authenticity conversation, it just expands out. And that's what's really powerful.
So true. Right now, I feel like a lot of us, I wanted to ask you a question and for us to kind of talk about it and have a conversation about what it means to you to forgive. We hear these words go around, you know, we have to forgive, can't take it with us, we have to let it go. And sometimes I believe that people really aren't clear on what that means. And so I wanted to have a little bit of a dialogue on that today. When someone says, you know, I forgave that person, or we don't have to forgive in the higher realms or vibration or densities. Letting go, what does it mean to you?
Well, if everything is energy, which it is, so these are lessons and there's a transference of energy. So when it's janky or you think, you know, something's done onto you, it's actually, you know, probably a lesson. And once you've learned the lesson, it sort of dissipates. This is the way I understand things. And so when something has happened, it is a process. But if you step back and look at possibly why, then you really understand the individual person's journey. And I particularly believe in, I've attracted everything into my life. So if it was my stepfather or my brother or someone's done something either to themselves and it's reflected to, like, say, the family, and it's been hurtful or sad, how do we step away from that and say everyone has their own particular path and it was nothing personal, even though we were, you know, whatever the words are, a brother and a sister, a father and a mother. Because if you can just accept the fact that those are lessons and people show up as doing the best that they can, then it's really expansive. And then there's really no need for any forgiveness because you respect the person, they're on their journey and you're on yours, and it's perfect.
Right. And that's coming from an expanded awareness.
It is.
Your level of awareness realizes that the person that you used, your father or a brother or a sister or our husbands or boyfriends, mm-hmm. that they are an individual entity, their own soul, having their own life experiences, that they have a contract to learn or have decided that this lifetime, this is what they wanted to learn from, these experiences. And so when you can step back and see that every person in our life was playing a role, totally. So that you can find yourself, then like you said, there is no need for forgiveness.
Yeah. And Franco Di Nicola, when I did the work with him and listened with him, he, in his vernacular verbiage, for me, it resonated perfectly. So I was really able to understand that from a much higher concept. So all the people I've worked with all along the way, who I give thanks to up until this moment, because of them, all of them, you included.
And what was that verbiage that you're speaking of? What did Franco say?
About the soul and about the experiences and about, like, he, I think, actually said there's really nothing to forgive. So I understood what he meant by that, by each person is playing a role. And if you don't want to play with them any longer, you're able to say, you know, that's it. You know, I'm not interested in that field of energy. So if you study energy and understand energy and know those dynamics, are sort of not easy to put into words, it's a feeling, then you can say, oh, well, you can choose out and not be involved in it. Or that particular, say, oh, well, why did I know that girl as a friend for 9 years, or only that person for a week? You know, there was something about it, you know. So if you sit with that and understand that from that perspective, I think it's quite interesting, because then there's no like this and that and blame and shame or that. It's like all like excellent, because people come and go, and it's a whole great experience with all the people.
Right, like a detachment of, like for myself, I've been experiencing, what's the word I'm looking for? Not disconnect, but cord cutting, coming to an acceptance in my own family, even down to my granddaughter, how I no longer feel the responsibility for her journey.
Yes, I can understand that and can speak to that. I felt really responsible in my family for people. And then when I did my work, I was like, I really freed myself, because I overly burdened myself thinking, well, I've got to save this person and I've got to help this person. And the more I use my energy, and it was from the outer to the in rather than from my inner self to the outer, where I'd have more strength, power, and resonance possibly. But you don't know what you don't know, right? So until you learn that, it's like, wow.
Absolutely. And it's like the ultimate freedom, having this emotional freedom so that we don't suffer any longer. That's really what being a higher vibrational frequency, fifth dimensional or above experience is about, is your state of grace, a state of unity. Because then it's not that we don't love them or care about their journey, but we understand now that they're on their journey.
Absolutely. And from working with Stephen, I mean, we have all of these past lives, not that we stay back there, but to understand how energy can resonate into your current time reality. And maybe you hadn't learned the lesson then and you're still working on something now. So it's not for everybody, but it interests me indubitably, where, you might have been, a teetotaler or, something else in this lifetime. It's a different thing. So I think it's so cool to understand the whole perspective, about things you have done and what you're bringing into this lifetime to maybe want to clean it up a little bit. And if you can work with people to help you to free yourself of those, whatever you want to call them, entities or disqualified energies or stuckness or looping, right? All these words. It is, I'll tell you right now, it's the best thing is to be free. And then from there, when you're with people or I'm with my boyfriend, it's just so incredible. It's like, you want to scream. I don't get too crazy. I'd like to, but they're like, ah, it's like amazing. It's like, because everything is just like, I don't know, this like new Technicolor or something.
I remember when self-worth fully came in and the jealousy goes and the insecurities goes. That's how you realize that how much I've grown in inner work that I've done and released so much cellular memory, is that now there is no competition. I don't need to be the prettiest girl in the room. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I just am. Am Anna. If I come in as Anna, that's all I can be.
Yeah.
And when we understand, go ahead.
One of the lessons when I first was doing yoga, we were doing the handstand and the teacher made us get off the wall because why? She says, it's not about getting into the handstand. It's about getting into the handstand. Like everyone was up on the wall, boom, boom. And I was like, all those little lessons, radiate with you because it's like, what did we learn? Competition, sports in school, like being the best, being the hottest, the prettiest, the this and that. I live in a very affluent area where everything was like, the kids were getting Mercedes-Benz at like 15, my dad's like, I don't think so.
Wow.
Best lessons ever. Wow. Materialism. And what's happening today is we're in two extremes. Rudolf Steiner talks about it. Extreme materialism and extreme escapism. Where's the middle road?
And that's really where we want to be, is in the middle. Because there's nothing wrong with having nice things.
No, and there's nothing wrong with being beautiful or wanting to have that competitive thing, meaning like where you're not pushing anybody down and out, but it's like to have that feeling, we competed in the newspaper for the best designs and stuff. So that kind of energy, you're not like, you know what I mean, in sports or something. I don't know that, whatever that is, but different interesting things like that.
Well, right. You're saying there's a competitive fun, like to have fun with each other. Like, okay, let's both create a piece of art, but we both want them to shine through what the individual artist is bringing through, or like your newspaper article that you're speaking about. I don't feel like it's competing. You're just all doing the best your ability.
You're bringing your uniqueness into a third dimensional thing, right? So an artist may be doing sculpture, or I'm doing graphic design or whatever, but it's bringing through that thing of your own beingness. So how cool, right? It's like so cool. It's not competing because you're just allowing the platform to be the creativeness that it is, and somebody may be working with wood and their expression of that, and that's what's so outrageously cool. And you can only do that if you're your own unique self, because it has to channel down and through with your hands, and however, if you're sculpting clay, metal, whatever, you have to allow that to be so, otherwise it can't be brought into fruition.
And I really feel that when I go out and about, if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm around friends, when we let go, and I'm single. So the early days, if I would have been single, I would have always wondered if someone was looking at me, is he checking me out? Do I look cute? Is he going to like me? Now there's such freedom that I just show up, and that chatter isn't there anymore. When you don't seek that outside fulfillment of, hey, you're beautiful, or when that is all gone, the ultimate freedom is there, because then you are actually in authentic conversations with your friends. You're in a conversation, you're present.
I'd like to speak to that. I
Sure.
was single for probably 14 years, and all through these times that we've just gone through. And I was at a backyard party, band, pig roast, and I met Andrew just naturally. And it was just like so incredible. And since I met him, we've just had this running conversation of just this awesome connection. And we're both Aquarius, and it's just so incredible because it just happened so naturally.
And did you feel it grow? Like
I was there, and it just, like, the stars aligned, and it was the right time, and it was the right thing. And so the point that I'm saying is that all those years that I was doing work and working, it wasn't the right time for me. And now is the time to have that. And I think another lady was on Todd's show, and she said something about 2020 where people used to be like codependent and something shifted. And I don't know what that was, but I remember her using her hands, and it was like meshed and then separate. And I've never been married, and I was single for quite a long time. And then, in and out or whatever, a couple of boyfriends. But the point is now this way is like amazing. And it's what that woman said, it's totally different. But what I want to say is that it just is.
And I believe that in my heart. And so that takes away all the other noise and distraction.
Right. Just what you were saying. People are saying, oh, you've got to do this, Christine, or you've got to get on these things, these false things. I was like, absolutely not. I know when the comes into my life. And there he was. He asked me to dance to Patsy Cline at a country thing. And he's like, everybody's watching. And my heart was racing. It was ready. He put his hand on the middle of my back. And I thought I was going to go down. And he's like, you're ready to dip me, oh my God, yeah. I was like, wait, my heart and everything, my breath was like and I was like, oh, it was amazing. What a moment. What a moment. So what I want to say to everyone is you can be and do have anything. You just have to, have the particular alignment, and it's like perfect. Then it's perfect.
How beautiful for you. And the focus and why I brought this up is just that everything else is a distraction from our inner work. And when we have it was about self-worth.
Yes.
And when you have self-worth, all those, you recognize how those old programs don't exist anymore.
That's a beautiful point. That's exactly correct. I really feel that when you say that. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And now in your new relationship, based on your level of awareness and your light, how is it different, do you say, than the relationships you see with your friends or family? How is it different now?
How is it different? It's the structure of our relationship that's being built is super slow and it's stepping in a grounded way where it's completely solid, I feel, and not rushing into anything, and having real open conversations about it and letting each day like completely unfold. And in my life, I would say it's the most beautiful and really high level. He's also Aquarius level of two people coming together. It really feels so different than anything I've ever experienced. Coming up to in September will be a year.
Oh, congratulations. Almost your 1 year anniversary. Christine, is he in these circles, as we would say?
I say that?
As we would use, because I don't like to use labels, but we need words to describe things. Would you say that your boyfriend is within these circles of awareness?
Yes, because he's also an Aquarian. So he's of the genius type mind. And for me, when we sit and speak, it's just like, so probably for me, our relationship is otherworldly. So it's like from my chart anyway, the intellect is like the most profound thing rather than all the other things, it's all great, all of the other things, but that speaking every day and being together, the energy and the verbiage of where we are in our brains and ourselves, it's like really magical and awesome.
So you're able to talk about ascension and all the things we've been talking about and that we do talk about on these shows with each other
in a different way, not like using those words. When we speak, it's just however, how do I describe it? It's just sort of known. I don't know how to describe it, to reverb it back. It just is, you just know the way our conversations are. And we're both humanitarians, so we're looking out for people and the greater good, like in the conversations between us at work, and how we see things differently than other people, and our work ethic and why. And it's so, I guess, it's hard to describe it. The words, not like that, ascension and stuff like that. I think, those things spiritually are on a couple different levels, but when we talk about it, it's at that level, if that makes sense.
It does. And this is really important that we're talking about this, because we have to normalize these conversations so that people are open to expressing their truth. Again, it's about being authentic. And would I say that every person I know and hang out with, do we talk about these things? No, but they know who I am because I present myself, as you know, on Facebook publicly with my family and friends.
Yeah.
But we don't always have to, the conversations aren't always about ascension. The conversations aren't always about spirituality.
Correct. And I would say, as a male, for him and me, we're just there and we're living our lives as humans and whatever. And that's exactly right. I'm not doing that all the time with him that way. And then just him and I are in that energy together, and it doesn't have to be said that way, if that makes sense.
Right.
Awesome.
Because just his energy and your energy, because we don't have to use those words to describe our light and our signature. We just are.
Yeah, it gets a little bit like remember those times of the yoga times and all that, the words and the things. It doesn't have to be like all of this, it just is.
Right, because if you live from your truth and you just are who you are, then you are living your highest alignment.
Yeah, and it's not like efforting, does that make sense? Or saying, oh, it's like, those yoga mudras and signs, and then it just is a natural way of speaking and talking and being. There's no, not sugarcoating, but like, using too many words to be something that it isn't, when people do that, it's, maybe it's not so truthful. I don't know, but it's just really great when all that definition of words doesn't have to be talked like that. It's just a natural flow of energy, conversations, and descriptions of things. It just tuned in each time.
It clicks, right? It just,
yes.
You align energetically and you're in that vibrational frequency together and you just are.
And each day the conversation just picks up right where it left off. And it's beautiful, the going apart, and that's, you talked about the self-worth and coming together. It's like one does their thing, the other does the other thing, and then I come back in between and around and separately out in between around. And that's really the beautiful dance, I believe, because one needs their own time to do the things and have the experiences, then come together, and then it's interesting then when two or more are gathered.
It is beautiful. Let's see, where do we want to go with this? I was seeing how much time we have. We still have almost 20 minutes.
Okay.
And some of the suggestions that I've gotten for the show, some feedback, is that I haven't chosen topics. And because this is all new to me, I'm
Sure.
trying to be my authentic self. And it was a lot for me to come be in front of a camera and to break through those nerves and to be here. I was really nervous. I'm always nervous right before the camera. He says, it's like action, you're on.
Yeah.
And I can see where it would help to have certain topics, but then I wonder if it loses its organic. If like when we talked on the phone, we said that if we didn't want to rehearse it.
Yeah.
And so moving forward, I have some guests lined up that I know the topic is going to be more specific just because of where they are and what they're involved in.
Okay.
But like for us, we're out here not in the front. I haven't written a book. I don't know. Have you written a book?
No.
And we are going about our lives from a heart-centered place,
Yes.
like you said, in your relationship and with your work and your family. So that's what this platform is for, so people can hear that there's everyday people that are doing the work, that are the light. And I feel like that is so important right now for people to have courage, to speak, to make it normal, right? Because I find it incredibly wonderful that I don't have to turn the TV on and that I can come on to Sology Network and watch videos.
Absolutely. I did that for years. Awesome.
Say that again.
I did that for years. I don't really subscribe unless I was watching Paul Newman last night in the old movies. That's real fun because it's just a different energy and a different head. But as far as that, with Soology, it's a more like-minded group and connection. And I would say that, like for you and I, we just, it's like a freestyle. A lot like Todd uses the word like that. It's because it's just our energy, and we're able to do that. It's because of our personalities and whatever. I mean, mine anyway. I should speak for myself. I can have no trouble talking and sharing or whatever. But other people, because of who they are, maybe need or are structured where they maybe the freestyle may be uncomfortable for them. I don't know, where you may need to have them or one subject or 4 subjects. I'm not sure, to help them, through the minutes of the time. So they flow I'm not real sure. I guess it's many different types of people. So one does not fit all, even on a program like this, in a sense, right?
It doesn't. You're exactly right. It doesn't fit all. And I have to adapt to each guest, right? Because I'm growing with the show
Sure.
and I'm growing myself and how I want to see the show affect. It's affecting me and it's affecting those watching. And that's what's really important, that light transmission. It's not necessarily the words, but the light that we hold.
And how? Well, if I can help you in any way, let me know.
I know that you wanted to talk about what's been going on in Long Island. Do you want to bring in awareness about the energy there where you live?
Well,
we can say anything we want on this platform because it's not on Facebook.
Okay. Well, I live about 50 miles or so, maybe a little less, to Montauk, which is at the east, end of Long Island. And right after
I don't know what Montauk is. What is that?
Well, you've seen the map of New York and you've seen Long Island, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's the end point, the last little bit of it, right? So I'm just a smidgen in, living in East Quogue. And out there was a facility where they did different experiments and time travel and different things according to how much do you want to say? I don't know. But anyway, due to the fact that that did happen, there was a projection of energy that, around this particular days of the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th was projecting out onto the field of energy, where I live. And due to the fact that there's Venus is retrograding and has a conjunction, I believe, to the sun, there was perfect times where portals and time travel and doing things, not for the positive, it can affect people energetically. So
during specific times, right? Specific times in alignment is what you're getting at.
Yes, that particular moment was on this particular alignment that was brought into my awareness a few weeks ago to be, mindful of that. So there are a lot of other influences energetically that, are altering, humans and not for the good. So a lot of people don't know that awareness. I feel privileged to know about it and then to try to hold the light space through the meditations and activations that I work with a group in doing to hold the light and the space for the greater good when there's, alternative things happening, when people have particular types of agendas that are not sort of like what we're talking about.
Right. So this group that you meditate to bring in it to neutrality, would you say? When you meditate to bring balance to offset that energetic is what you mean? Or how would you explain?
Stephen Popatek is the man that I was invited to be involved with on the meditations, activations, he calls it, and I just show up as myself and meditate and hold space with them. And people from all over the world are present, and him being the gifted soul that he is, he's able to see things and, help things if they're out of alignment, let's say, or whatever vernacular he chooses to use in order to create the greater good from the things that are disturbing, the human or Mother Earth or Father Gib, he says, and he calls in the angels and our team in spirit, which is really powerful. And from that, the work that I've done, which I think is really interesting, because I'm really interested in the Native American rituals, and I have that energy from a Lakota medicine woman from one of my past lives. So it just feels really powerful through meditation and tribalness and all of those kinds of things to help the people and the animals to stabilize. And bigger, I believe, and he also, I would say, agrees to bring in this new earth positive light formation. So it's really awesome. I feel really honored to be a part of it. Wednesday night for the new moon, we'll all be gathering. So it's just
It's,
really,
it's on the 16th.
yes.
When you were talking about being an Aquarius, and I don't know much about astrology, but I know that my moon rising is Aries. I'm a Sagittarius, that's my sun sign, or the 13th sign. And I think Todd was trying to figure out how you say it. It's Ophiuchus. How do you say the 13th sign?
I don't believe in that.
Okay.
I follow the Western Tropic and the Vedic, and I don't believe, from what I understand, that there really was ever that. But I mean, I could be mistaken, but I heard that along the way, but I don't concur with
But
that.
my Aquarius is my north node. Does that mean anything?
Mm-hmm. That does mean something. I was just learning about the north node and the south node. My north node is Aquarius, and my south node is the Leo. And on the full lunar eclipse, they're both adjacent. And at this moment in time, the second and the eighth house. So they're this like alignment. And when I saw the chart, I think it was a week ago, I did the work there. It was really wild. And so the north node, if you have a piece of pie that's in 12 slices, the first 6 is the north, right? And then the bottom half is the south. So these are the things that are of light. These are things that are sort of underground or that haven't come up and out yet. So I'm not like an expert at it per se, but the north node.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that. I have never had anybody describe it that way. That the north node would represent the chart on the top. Like when you're looking at the chart and it has that.
Yeah.
So everything on the top is considered your north node?
The northern, the above. And so let's say like above and then below, right? So a lot of my stuff in Saturn, and I had a Chiron return, it is coming up out of the 7th and 8th. So I have a lot of planets in my 8th house, which I was just learning about a week ago. So a lot of things changed, or a lot of relationships changed for me in my life. You know, I've changed jobs. My brother passed away. My father passed away. The German Shepherd passed away. So a lot of transition, and Pluto is just in there, and he's coming up out of that into my 9th house. So what I can say to astrology without talking about myself is that it's so fascinating, because when you understand it from that point of view, you know when to move and when to pull back, or when to, do different things in your life, or why different things are happening. It's a more expansive way of understanding yourself.
I love that. I love it so much. And it makes so much sense, because different things in my life have happened around the same time of year, every year.
There you go.
When I've quit in a job, when I start a new job, it's all happened at the same times where these alignments or certain planets in my house were aligned. And then my actions always occurred during those time periods. It's so fascinating.
And when I learned about the Pluto being in my 8th house, you can go ahead and behind. And it was at the 24th of September is when I met Andrew. It was like right at that unbelievable time. It was just like the perfect alignment. And so when you see it, because I'm a visual person, when you see the symbols and the numbers for me, and then it was just like how she moved, from a little behind the time to like the more last year, the current state, it was like, you can't make it up. It's just what it is. It is right. What it is. So if you understand yourself and use these tools that all of the ancients had and do, I mean, you're operating in a fully understood state where you know what to do, So right now, Venus is retrograde. You don't ask for the raise because Venus rules money, beauty, and, like, I don't know, people do stuff to their bodies or whatever, surgeries or whatever. None of that kind of thing. Goddess of beauty. Yeah. So I just think it's really profound to live that way. When to know what do they say? When to hold them and when to fold them.
That's so cool. Some people just think that's just a bunch of woohoo stuff, right? That's like fortune telling or a cookie. What do you call those things you get at the Chinese restaurant? The little fortune cookies, and there's a little paper inside, and you read your fortune. And some people don't relate to astrology or just think it's nonsense. But when you feel into it, and like I expressed earlier about things that have occurred in my life, it's always been the same months of the year every year. When I make big decisions in my life, they're in alignment with that time of year. It's either in the spring or in the fall.
Well, if you think about it, right, and if you go back to the basics of anything, it's like you eat the food when it's in season. And, you plant the things in the spring, or you set forth, your intentions at that time. Well, I think we've lost that. And I really love that about myself, is that all those ritualistic things that way make sense to me. I live in a 4-season climate. When you pray, if you pray with tobacco and you wait for the message, all the different, and this is of a spiritual, not everybody's this way, but it makes so much sense to live that way. And astrology is a signpost map of oneself. So I feel it's, vitally important in order to navigate, especially in these times, of how to live your best, most authentic self,
Is Todd, are you still there? I was going to bring Todd back on because there's a beautiful sister who is all about astrology, and I would love to have her on my show, and so that we could all even get into this conversation.
Yes.
Because I know, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Is it Julian or Jillian? Who am I that does astrology really well? Like that's her niche. She's on the panel of producers on Sology.
Oh, Julie Person? No. Here, let me look. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank here. Let's see. We got.
I heard your stuff on my page. And I apologize in advance if she's listening, because I'm sure she is. If anybody can read the comments, knows who I'm talking about. I shared her stuff about the meteor.
Oh, you're talking about Julie Dara Roberts.
Yes.
Okay, she's not an astrologist. She's a cosmologist.
Cosmologist.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you who's
right?
I'll tell you who's really well versed in astrology, esoteric astrology, is Ty.
Yeah, I feel like there should be almost like a class for all of us who could go into this depth of conversation, because I really, as well, like you, Christine, believe that it does assist us. The more we know, the more that it empowers us.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, let's organize it.
Yeah.
I would love to organize Ty to come on the show, to have Christine on the show, and the cosmologist, and that we could present a way for people to understand the charts
cool
a little better.
Some cool cats.
There's so much there with astrotheology. If you look at some of Jordan Maxwell's work, Robert Sepper's done stuff on it. There's a lot of stuff there. I don't think there's anything that's 100%. I think that's all part of it. And for me, I feel like, and I think Sandra Walter and I talked about this when she was on, whenever she was on, and that all of this stuff included is coming up to be put in its proper place. In other words, our perspective is even above that. So I think in order to get there, you have to discuss these things. You have to be open to these things and look at the lunar calendar, look at the solar calendar, look at the different calendars, the Mayan calendar, the Gregorian calendar. I mean, I know there's some fuckery involved here and there, but it's really all just cookie crumb trails home. I've always looked at the
because once
sky.
we go quantum, if we're quantum and we're going quantum in unity consciousness and we're using quantum physics, all that changes.
Well, that's what Sandra, because when I talked to Sandra, because I said, are you saying, because that's what I've been feeling, like even above the monad. Okay. So in other words, outside the construct, there are many other realms, many other constructs. And so eventually we'll get there, but these things, yeah, they have to come out and be discussed in order for us to be exposed to the coding that we offer each other. So it's really fascinating to me. And even you bring in Julie Dara Roberts, who's really coming from an astrophysicist standpoint,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you know, with that MIT type of formal training combined with, you know, she's a strong student of Sandra Walters. She does her own thing as well. I mean, so you've got that combination of like what you're talking about, Christine, about the rituals and the tobacco. And, you know, when I was listening to you, that Montauk is huge with the indigenous. Because when I went by there, when I was driving by there, not even knowing where I was, because I was staying at Port Jefferson with a sister who had invited me there because I was homeless just for a couple of days. So we're taking this drive, and as I'm getting the flashbacks, Amanda Lawrence sends me a voicemail saying, I don't know what's going on. It was 1 minute and 5 seconds. It was her chanting an ancient song. And she said, we're all standing around this bonfire 10,000 years ago, basically ritualizing and planning what we're doing now. So I just know from other experiences too, there's a whole Native American thing there. So that doesn't surprise me that you're picking up on that. Anyway, yeah, I would have turned on the video, but I'm over here. I took my shirt off, and I just, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think there's a lot to be said for presenting the different ideas, right? Like presenting different narratives. Like when you go on Facebook now, and like I think Anna says this, she comes up with something, then she goes and reads it. Somebody else is writing it in a different way, but saying the same thing. And more people are saying that. Then I look at a guy I had on yesterday, and he had his own, you know, his own narrative or his own understanding. And even though he qualified as that, you see comments that say, no, that's not true. I think what I'm trying to say is that these dialogues, because look, there's nobody can sit here and say that we can continue to grow if we're not open. We have to be open. That's an absolute. So what better way to do it than to have our human being aspect fully present with our multidimensionality in a space that it's supported, nobody's different or weird, and say, this is what I know and this is what I feel.
Absolutely.
And we learn things. Yeah. So I think it's a great idea. That'll be.
Yeah, I think it would be perfect. And I think we could get some aha moments from it to understand the effects, perhaps, that some of the programs were used during these specific times in where the planets are aligned or different gateways are open for us to, you know, we know that we've had mind swipes. We know all these things. And so I think if we brought more aha moments of, oh, okay, it was this, you know, that month. Okay, that makes sense. And now that all those modalities may be going away because we're learning our true gifts and how we are truly aligning, and that we will manifest instantly from our knowing.
It's all inclusive, you know. It's like we're all these little jeweled beings. So all of these little things are in me of this. So it's the tools. So then we get together with you, Todd, Ty, whatever. And it's just like this branching of things that brings it to this whole other realm. So when I talk to you about this, I see like this a branch of something else that's where people like me and Ty or whatever are of like minds in that sense, where it just radiates something like a different aspect, but of those particular subjects, which is really powerful, in my opinion.
They are powerful. And from my level of having my hand in a little bit of everything, I'm aware of, I'm a part of many other platforms, that I read about or read what's going on. And one of the things I have noticed is that people are curious about astrology. They're constantly asking questions and they want to know more. And how does it affect them? It's maybe part of the ascension process. I'm not sure, but I hear the conversations around it a lot, that people are becoming more and more curious about astrology and how it affects people. So I think this is a really maybe something Todd and I can discuss, and Christine,
Sure.
I will let you know.
Absolutely.
But Todd, I feel like this may open other doorways for people to understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this idea, and because it's also something we could introduce at the Solargy Fest, because I see them all the same thing. So like at the first Solargy Fest, I just said, hey, let's get Franco and Jason up here at the same time. And I'll sit in the middle and let's just see what happens.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It create what, but I don't mind saying this because, but I mean, it created a bit of apprehension in both of them.
Totally.
And it created this, because it's so important, the intention and the openness are so important. They're important for self-growth, honesty with self, and et cetera. So I think like having little panels where different things are represented, where you're really not going to be in a space where you can go, oh, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because nobody's wrong. Right. Like if you look at the calendar, so the calendar, this was shown to me like in March, right? And then I started talking about it, and other people were like, oh, yeah, whatever. Well, December is a prefix meaning 10. Okay, right? November is 9, October's 8. So these are 2 months off. Now, I know that this year, on March the 1st, I was told, get off social media and stargates are going to start popping up all over this world. January and February seemed to be like integration. And something told me that the year started on March the 1st. Then I find out that September is really means 7, and so on, right? So if you look at something like that, does that mean that at one time the numerology and everything else that comes from the calendar was set up on a year that either had 10 months or January and February at the end of the calendar? And how would that affect things? Now, if you look at July, you had 3777 days, right?
Yes.
And those were very powerful days.
Definitely.
But by the same token, there's people like Pamela from Higher Vibrations, and I've heard a couple other talk about it, that you're going to have the same 777 occurring in September. So I don't think anything gets disqualified or becomes irrelevant. I think it really, what it means is everything we can put into the consciousness of discussion, or the field of consciousness, is relevant. And then at some point, there's enough oneness that we don't even discuss it anymore. We go to the next thing, right?
So just a quick thing on the numbers. So on 8/8, the Lionsgate, my moon's in Leo, so I'm aware of that. I have no problem talking and speaking and being the front of the businesses that I usually, step into. So, but my intention was, while I was writing, is something new, different, and I'm, an artist, and I do creative graphics, and I'm in banking now, and it's all different weird. So my intention was something new. And Anna sends me a message. I'm like, hot dog, man. This is like unbelievable. All these years and all this. And I was like, this is outrageous. So 8-8 was the portal of the lion, the Lions Gate. And I was like, see, there you go, Christine. It's as simple as that. And here I am.
And see,
I totally believe there's no mistake when we make connections with people. When I made friends with you a long time ago on Facebook,
Yeah.
I knew that you were a sister right away. I mean, I knew that. I just know we have these feelings, right? You can feel it. And I felt it with you. And like I said, I see you out there. And I thank you so much. And Todd, I've read somewhere going back about the calendar, January and February were added.
Yeah.
They didn't always use that.
Yeah.
Those 2 months didn't exist on the calendar.
And so like you look at something like that, and does that change the numerology quotient for the day or the time or the month? Or I think they're all irrelevant. There's somebody that's in our community that's put forth that the Lionsgate corridor is actually tied to like a psyops, a cosmic psyops fuckery kind of thing. Now, is that true or not true? I mean, if it's in the field, it's true. If we've thought of it, it's true. It's not about, closing doors. It's about opening doors so that you can see everything. It's kind of like making a soup and putting a bunch of stuff in the soup, and eventually it just has one consistency, one color. You know what I mean? So I think it's the differences that lead us to our unity, and then the mutual respect to listen and be open to someone else's idea and not shut it down in your head or with your mouth or with your actions, but actually go in. And who was it? The lady today that was on earlier today, she was talking about, because she just started channeling a year and a half ago. Her story was like a lot of people's from 10 years ago. And she said, you really got to be vulnerable to channel, like to do light language, to sing, like for me, or because to me it's the same thing. Dance, it's the same thing.
Well, to create, Todd, right? I used to work I worked at Disney, and all those senior scientists in the think tank. And as a graphic designer, I worked as a newspaper artist. So I had a whole plethora of people around the table. So I accepted everybody's individuality to make a cohesive whole, right? So if I dummied anybody down or thought anyone was wrong, bad, or indifferent, we couldn't get it done or make the thing. And so I learned when I was younger, when I was at that particular thing out there in Wayne Scott, when I worked for Disney, I watched all these like brilliant men. And I was like, wow, everybody's so different. And one's doing this and one's dressed that way or whatever. So I never forgot that. So I brought that in. So when I became the art director, then you're like, yeah, don't get too crazy with the title. You're just bringing in the thing to make the thing, but you're enabling all people to be themselves, using all that talent. And then I would create the subject, which was the newspaper at the time. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because you need the writers, the editors, the artists, the guys driving the damn newspapers and spreading them from Montauk to Manhattan.
And I really feel like Sology is like that. When you say that Sology is that kind of platform, I mean, because you have Marina, you have Pamela, you have Elsa, you have myself, Ty. We have many people on the show that are who are creating. We're creating as we go, Todd.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. And it drives people crazy.
I love it.
I drove Hung crazy the first two Sology Fest, but they went off. They had that spirit of the spontaneity and the creativity.
Yeah.
And you actually have the masculine and the feminine, because you have the direction of the trajectory, which you could see as a straight line, but you also have the flowing of the creativity that's just as important, just like the caduceus, just like that. So yeah, I think the more we do it, the better. I got excited. I was eating a sandwich and I heard y'all talking. I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about, I just feel like the more people that want to have a conversation, and we have great IT people, we can produce as many shows as we want. Awesome. We can run them at the same time. That's already there. I just haven't introduced any of this. That's there with just basic multi-streaming. But my goal is let's get channel 1 going, and then we'll get channel 2 going, and each channel's fed by 30 or 40 shows a week and let people come in and everybody, you know, everybody finds their tribe or their subdivision in the tribe or something.
Hey, that's a good word, subdivision. I saw the
Mm.
astrology or whatever, us kooky types, you know, over here. The subdivision of this type of mind. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. It was a
Me
great
too.
show. Great
Yeah.
show. Really
Thank you.
great
Thanks
show.
for today, Christine, and being vulnerable with me today.
Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you, Todd, and thank you for the connection. It's all perfect, and as it ever was. And thank you to everyone that's helped me to get to this point. It's just so fun, isn't it?
It is, and I'm grateful.
I am
We'll see
too.
you next time on Authenticity. Bye, everybody.